And we went into the different types of wahi, where some wahi would sometimes be a dream, sometimes an angel would come in a human form, etc. These were the different types of wahi mentioned by Allama ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala in his great book Zadul Ma'ad. Now Zadul Ma'ad is a very great, you could say, an encyclopedia on the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is quite a lengthy book, and it has within it different aspects of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the extent that it mentions regarding how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would travel, how he would sleep, how he would eat, the different pieces of armor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the different animals which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam possessed, the different pieces of clothing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam possessed, the different vessels that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would use to eat in, etc., with drinking. So these different aspects of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the amazing thing about this book is that he mentions himself that this entire book I wrote whilst I was on my travels, and I had no access to other resources and books. So majority of it was wrote from his memory. Allama ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, very great alim and great scholar of the past, one of the most prominent students of Allama ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. Nevertheless, we continue with the narration, coming to an end now, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received the wahi, and after receiving the wahi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returns. فَرَجَعَ بِهَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَرْجُفُ فُؤَادَهُ. He returns home, يَرْجُفُ فُؤَادُهُ, where he's trembling, and he comes فَدَخَلَ عَلَى خَدِيجَةَ بِنْتِ خُوَيْلِدٍ. He comes to his blessed wife Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and he says to Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, zammiluni, zammiluni, that cover me with a blanket, cover me with a blanket. I'm feeling very cold, I'm scared, I don't know what's happening. And this fear of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was because of the fact that it was all of a sudden. He wasn't expecting something like this to happen. He didn't have any shak or doubt in regards to his nubuwwah or his prophethood, but rather of the fact that this entire incident just took place. What was it? And now he has been given the responsibility of nubuwwah. Would he be able to fulfill it? How will he be able to fulfill it? What is the demands of this particular responsibility? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was disturbed at this, and he never knew what to do. So he comes to Sayyidah Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and he mentions this to Sayyidah Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, but she was very, very intelligent. She was a highly intelligent woman, and he, after informing her, he says to her that, look, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. Why? Because the characteristics Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, the morals, the ethics which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, these are such high morals, such an high character, that an individual like you will not go to waste, and an individual like you will not be disgraced. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not disgrace somebody like you. Why? Because you have such high character. إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. And the very first thing she mentions is that you join ties with your relatives. You join ties with your relatives. You fulfill the responsibilities of your relatives and the rights upon them. Why? Because if a person has good qualities, good conduct, good character, then the very first people who will observe this are none other than his family members. If his family members, his immediate and extended, if he has good conduct, character, and he then expresses this to his family members, then automatically that means now he'll probably give is good with everybody else. But if he's not good with his own family members, then he's not going to be good with anybody else. So the criteria for an individual having good ethics, morals, etc. is determined by the shahada and the testimony of his family members. If they say, no, he is a very good individual, he looks after us, he comes to visit us when we're sick, he helps us when we need it, whenever we want to call somebody, whenever we need some help, then the very first person we'll call will be him. Why? Because he's always there for us, he's always got time for us. So when his own family members say this, then you can gauge that no, definitely this person has good morals and etiquettes. But otherwise you say that, oh, that person is very good and he's always there. But then his family members say, that's what you say. We know what he's like. Ask us what he's like. His wife says, ask us what he's like. The children say, or his brothers and sisters, his siblings say, we know what he's like. You don't know. You just see him for a few hours outside. You've not known him for as long as we have known him. We know what he's really like. So, إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. This was the distinguishing quality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which Sayyidah Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala points out right at the outset, that you join ties with your relatives. You are very good with your relatives. So, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she mentions other characteristics as well. لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ وَتَحْمِلُ الْكَلْبَ وَتَقْسِمُ الْمَعْدُومِ وَتَقْرِ الدَّيْشِ وَتُعِينُ عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ. That not only do you look after your neighbors, your relatives, but you also assist those that are in need. Those people who are unable to look after themselves, you look after them as well. Those people who need financial support, you financially help them as well. Whenever you have guests, you are very entertaining towards the guests as well. Such qualities you possess that wallahi la yukhzika Allahu abada. Allah will never disgrace you. Allah will never disgrace you. So this was the testimony of Sayyidah Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, where she intellectually accepted the nubuwwah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She thought herself that, and he has claimed to be a Nabi, I have been with him for the past 15 years, and prior to that I also knew him. I have never seen anything wrong from him. I have never seen anything which may put down his character, and now he today all of a sudden is saying that he has received a revelation and he has received nubuwwah, and a messenger from God came to him and said to him certain things. Then he must definitely be a Nabi. He must definitely be a Nabi. See, intellectually understood that such an individual cannot be a liar. That is why Abdullah ibn Salam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came into Medina Munawwara, and he says that this was the first time ever I had seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The people of Medina had been waiting for him for ages, and every day they would go out and they would say that, no, maybe he's coming today, maybe he's coming today, then he'll come back, then he'll go back, then he'll come back, then he'll go back. So many days, and then finally Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered into Medina Munawwara. He says, فَلَمَّا رَأَيْتُ وَجْهَهُ تَبَيَّنْتُ أَنَّ وَجْهَهُ لَيْسَ بِوَجْهِ كَذَّابٍ. As soon as my gaze fell upon the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my heart told me that this person cannot be a liar. He cannot be a liar. No way is this individual one who lies. So such was the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she knew, she was a wife of Rasulullah. She knew exactly how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's conduct was. Not only the public life, in the public sphere, but in the private quarters of the own home, where a person generally relaxes and he's off guard generally, and a person just with his family members, he says things and he does things and he deals with them, obviously in a way which is not, he wouldn't sit and say and do things in the public sphere. But she knew his character even in the private life, and she knew that he was one of impeccable character. إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The most loftiest of character was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And after this, she was very intelligent. So she consoled Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the narration continues that she took Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to her cousin, Waraqa, who was an individual who knew about the scriptures. So she took Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Waraqa ibn Nawfal and told Waraqa that listen to what he has to say. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrated to him the entire incident of what happened. And he was a learned individual as well. He knew Hebrew as well, and he would write the scriptures as well, etc. But that is in the general narration, which is mentioned by Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala states that prior to taking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Waraqa, she herself went. And she herself narrated this incident to Waraqa. And according to another narration, she went to another individual as well, called Addas. This individual was a Christian slave of Taif. She went to him as well, because he was very learned as well. And she went to him as well and narrated the incident of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to him as well. And then she returned back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the ulama state that the reason for this was not that she was doubting it. She knew from her bottom of the heart that my husband has claimed nubuwwat and 100% he is true. But now he, just to make him feel at ease, let me take him to these individuals as well. But before taking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Waraqa, she went herself just in case Waraqa says something else. So let me first confirm with Waraqa if he is on the same wavelength that I am. I know he's a Nabi, but maybe he doesn't accept him as a Nabi. So before I take Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to him, let me first see and test the waters. If he is on the same wavelength as me, then I will take him to Waraqa ibn Nawfal. Look at the intelligence of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. She was there as a pillar for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she takes him to Waraqa ibn Nawfal. And Waraqa ibn Nawfal then listens to the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Waraqa was an elderly. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very young, he's in his 40s. Waraqa had reached old age now, and he listened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he also gave testimony of the nubuwwah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Khadija radiallahu ta'ala gave it in the light of her own intelligence. It was an intellectual decision. Whereas Waraqa's decision was more of a scriptural decision and one based on text. Because he said, this is what I had read previous in the scriptures, and this is that very angel who came to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And why did he mention Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, whereas he was a Christian? And not Isa alayhi salatu wasalam? That very point which I mentioned previously, the similarities of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, which I mentioned previously in regards to where the Bible testifies regarding Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how he will be similar to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. It is mentioned in the Bible. So that is why Waraqa also said that this is that very angel which came to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. So Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha was indeed a very great woman. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved her greatly as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha herself states that I had another 8 co-wives, okay, and with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but never did I feel on the lower hand compared to any of them. I'd always think that I am the best in the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I would always feel that I was second to Khadija. Although Khadija wasn't even there. Khadija wasn't even there, she had passed away. But even then I would always know that I would be second to Khadija. Why? Because whenever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would speak about his wives, he would be always speaking about Khadija. يُقْصِرُ ذِكْرَهَا. Khadija was like this. Khadija was like this. Khadija was like this. Sometimes he would slaughter an animal, he would sacrifice an animal, and then he would distribute the meat amongst his family, and he would make a point to send some portion of meat to the friends of Khadija as well, after she had passed away. And sometimes he would speak so much about Khadija that I would say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that كأنه لم يكن في الدنيا امرأة إلا خديجة. Rasulullah, it seems that there's only one woman in the whole world, Khadija. Is there nobody else? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Khadija, إنها كانت وكانت. She was like this. She was like this. She was like this. She says once the sister of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she knocked on the door. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, who is it? So she said that it's me, Hala, and she was a sister of Khadija, Hala bint Khuwaylid. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as soon as he heard the way she asked for permission, he immediately remembered Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, and a smile came upon his face, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became so happy. So when I saw him, Aisha says, when I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I thought, oh my, not again. So he says that Rasulullah, she says that وَمَا تَذْكُرُ مِنْ عُجُوزٍ مِنْ عَجَازِ قُرَيْشٍ حَمْرَاءُ الشِّدْكَيْنِ هَلَكَتْ فِي الدَّارِ فَأَبْدَلَكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا. Rasulullah, why do you continue remembering an old woman of Quraysh who's lost her teeth, died a long time ago? Allah has given you somebody who's far more better than her, somebody young, somebody very intelligent. So Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha states in the narration of Musnad Ahmad that فَتَمَعَّرَ وَجْهُهُ تَمَعُّرًا مَا كُنْتُ أَرَاهُ, that the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam immediately changed, and this facial expression of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was seen only when he would either receive wahi, or when he would think that whenever strong winds would blow or clouds would come and he would think that a punishment of Allah is coming, that is the only time his facial expression would be like that. So he came very, very angry, and immediately I understood that what I said was wrong. That is how much love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had with Khadija, because she was there when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had nobody else. She was there when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had nobody else. That is why Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha holds a very, very high status in Islam and amongst all the women of Islam as well. There are certain women who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has specifically mentioned of having a very high status in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam states 4 particular women: Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, and 5. The other 2 is Maryam, the mother of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, and Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. These 5 women Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has specifically mentioned in the ahadith that these women were elite. They were the best of the women. He says, Hasbuka min nisa al-'alamin. From all the women of the world, these are enough. Maryam, Khadija, Fatima, and Asiya. In other narrations, Rasulullah has mentioned certain fadail of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha as well. So these were very profound women in the history of the world. And when a person looks at these individuals, that why, what made them special, then a person sees that there are 2 specific things. Number 1, their yaqeen in Allah. Their yaqeen and their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at Khadija's belief and iman. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said it, immediately she's accepted it. Alal itlaq, from all the people that accepted Islam, the ulama are unanimous, the very first person is Khadija. She was the very first person who accepted Islam, even before Abu Bakr radiallahu, because she was the first person to hear it. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala heard it, and then others heard it as well. The very first person to accept Islam was none other than Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And she was with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam throughout. When a person looks at the life of Asiya, Asiya was in the house of Fir'aun. In the house of Fir'aun, she was a wife of Fir'aun. The person who's claimed divinity, he's claimed himself to be God. But she was steadfast. She was steadfast upon the deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions regarding Asiyah radiallahu anha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا امْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ. She's in the palace of Fir'aun, and Fir'aun is himself saying, you know, أَلَيْسَ لِي مُلْكُ مِصْرَ وَهَذِهِ الْأَنْهَارُ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِي. Look at me. I've got the whole of Misr and Egypt at my disposal. I've got these rivers running. This is my kingdom. So obviously she was his wife, so that was her kingdom as well. But her yaqeen was such. So she was living in the palace of Fir'aun. But what did she say? That, oh Allah, I want a palace by you. رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Oh Allah, I want a palace by you in Jannah. All this is nothing. This whole Egyptian kingdom which my husband has, I don't want that. I want a palace by you in Jannah. Look at the yaqeen she had. The yaqeen she had. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran for this particular reason. And the way she was made shaheed as well. And till the end, she did not let go of Islam and belief in Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. So number one, Iman of the highest degree. And number two, they were the best in their homes. Either as a mother or as a wife. Either as a mother or as a wife. Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, Fatima radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And even Maryam, if a person says, what about Maryam? Maryam bint Imran, Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam, was the mother of Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. And what about Asiya? Where did Musa alayhi salam grow up? Who was Musa alayhi salam's mother? Within the household. Obviously Musa alayhi salam's mother was his own mother, but he grew up in the house of Fir'aun. So his mother, in terms of adopted, was none other than Asiya. So a woman needs to be the best in her home. Nowadays, unfortunately, this wave of feminism which we are faced with, where a woman thinks that the home is at my place, I need to go out, I need to have a career. And they look at this aspect of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, that she was a businesswoman, she was an entrepreneur, she had her own, she had people working for her. Look at her. You know, and that's the aspect they look at. But no, that's not what made her special. That's not what made Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam love her. It wasn't that she was a great businessman, it was a woman rather. It was the fact that she was the best wife. She assisted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was there as a support for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's important that we instill within our wives and our daughters specifically the importance of keeping the home, the importance of adorning the home. Because this wave of feminism which we are facing, this has unfortunately ripped the entire fabric of society. And just recently there was a whole article or was it a video clip which I saw in an interview of somebody where they mentioned regarding article, I can't remember whether it was an article or a video, but it was mentioned regarding the amount of inmates in jails. Majority of them are from broken homes. Majority of them are from broken homes, and where people where they don't have that father figure, and where the mother then wants to take on that full responsibility on themselves. And because the reason generally things break is there's no understanding between the two. Understand? Yes, Allah has given a lot of rights to the women, without a doubt. But you need to remember that in the house, the husband has the upper hand. You may be the queen of the house as you wish to thingy, but when the king is there, then the queen is a queen consort. It's not the queen. The queen is there when the king is not there. When the king is there, now Camilla is not the queen, Camilla is the queen consort. You understand? So it's important that we understand that the keeping the home is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Being a good wife being a good mother, that is what makes a person excel as a woman in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the correct understanding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give harmony and love and compassion in every single household, and keep this household one which is built on the foundations of Islam, Quran and the Sunnah. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سلام على عباده الذين اصطفى، سلام على المرسلين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد وانزل المقدم المقرب عند الله رب هذه الدعوه القائمه والصلاه النافعه. صل على محمد وأظهر دار بعده ابدا. اللهم صل على محمد عبده ورسوله، وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد وارحم محمد وعلى محمد كما صليت وباركت ورحمت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وازواجه وذريته كما صليت على ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وازواجه وذريته كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ازواجه وذريته كما صليت على ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى ازواجه وذريته كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد النبي وازواجه امهات المؤمنين وذريته وال بيته كما صليت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم، وترحم على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما ترحمت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم ترحم على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما ترحمت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم تحنن على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما تحننت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم سلم على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما سلمت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد وبارك وسلم على محمد وعلى ال محمد وارحم محمد وعلى محمد كما صليت وباركت وترحمت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد عبد ورسولك كما صليت على ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الامي وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد النبي الامي كما باركت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد عبد ورسولك النبي الامي وعلى ال محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد صلاه تكون لك رضا وله جزاء ولحق دعوات والوسيله والفضيله والمقام المحمود الذي وعدته، وجزيه عنا ما هو اهله، وجزيه افضل ما جازت نبيا قوم ورسول امه، وصلى على جميع اخوانه من النبيين والصالحين يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الامي وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم، وبارك على محمد النبي الامي وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى اهل بيته كما صليت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم صل علينا امام. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى اهل بيته كما باركت على ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك علينا معهم صلوات الله وصلوات المؤمنين على محمد النبي الامي. اللهم اجعل صلواتك ورحمتك وبركاتك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما جعلت على ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. وصلى الله على النبي الامي. التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات. السلام عليك ايها النبي ورحمه الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. اشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. التحيات الطيبات والصلوات لله. السلام عليك ايها النبي ورحمه الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. اشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. التحيات لله الطيبات والصلوات لله. السلام عليك ايها النبي ورحمه الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. اشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. التحيات المباركات والصلوات الطيبات لله. السلام عليك ايها النبي ورحمه الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. اشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. بسم الله بالله تحيات الله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أسأل الله الجنة وأعوذ بالله من النار تحيات الله الزاكيات الله الطيبات الصلوات الله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بسم الله بالله خير اسماء التحيات الطيبات الصلوات الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وأن الساعة آتية لا ريب فيها السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين اللهم اغفر لي واهدني التحيات الطيبات والصلوات والملك لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله التحيات لله الصلوات لله الزاكيات لله السلام على النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين شهدت أن لا إله إلا الله شهدت أن محمدا رسول الله التحيات الطيبات والصلوات الزاكيات لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين التحيات الطيبات والصلوات الزاكيات لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين التحيات والصلوات لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين التحيات لله الصلوات الطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله التحيات والبركات التحيات المباركات الصلوات الطيبات لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله بسم الله والسلام على رسول الله يا رب صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك